Would you agree that LMPD unlawfully executed search warrants without knocking and announcing?
I'm sure there were situations where that occurred, yes.
Would you agree that Louisville Metro and LMPD engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that derived people of their rights under the Constitution and federal law?
I don't think the Department of Justice would have included it if they did not have sufficient evidence to make that statement.
Tonight, a story you'll only see on WHAS 11 News. For the very first time, the fired Metro Police Chief Steve Conrad talking about last week's tough U.S. Department of Justice report investigating the department under his leadership. It's a WHAS 11 News exclusive right here tonight. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt. You're about to see Conrad being asked specifically about many of the key findings by the DOJ. It happened this week, the interview during a recorded deposition in another case. He does not challenge a single question about the findings.
Wearing a suit instead of a uniform. It's the first time we've seen the former police chief since he was fired in early June of 2020 after serving as chief for 8 years.
I was relieved of that job on June 1st of 2020.
You were the chief policymaker for LMPD during that period of time, correct?
Objection to form. You can answer.
I was responsible for the policies that were made in the department.
It's also the first time he's been asked about the blistering U.S. Department of Justice report that focused on how the department operated under his leadership for several years.
Are you familiar with the Department of Justice report that came out last week?
I'm aware of it. I'm not familiar with it.
Have you read it?
I have not.
Conrad and LMPD are being sued by Louisville attorneys David Maurer and Greg Sims over the 2019 fatal police shooting of Shelby Gazaway. It happened in the parking lot of the Portland Kroger store. As part of his questioning during this recorded deposition on that case, Sims zeroes in on the recent Department of Justice findings.
Would you agree that within the time span where you were chief at Louisville Metro Police, LMPD used excessive force, including unjustified neck restraints and unreasonable use of police dogs and tasers?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know.
I'm sure that there were times when that occurred.
Would you agree that LMPD conducted search warrants based on invalid warrants?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know.
I don't know, but if it's in there, I assume it happened.
Would you agree that LMPD unlawfully executed search warrants without knocking and announcing?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know.
I'm sure there were situations where that occurred, yes.
Would you agree that LMPD unlawfully stopped, searched, detained, and arrested people during street enforcement activities, including traffic and pedestrian stops?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know.
I'm sure that occurred on some occasions.
Would you agree that LMPD unlawfully discriminated against black people in its enforcement activities?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know.
I'm sure that happened in certain cases in individual circumstances, yes.
Would you agree that LMPD violated the rights of people engaged in protected speech critical of policing?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know.
It would not surprise me if that occurred.
Did you know of specific incidents of that occurring?
I do not.
Would you agree that Louisville Metro and LMPD discriminated against people with behavioral health disabilities when responding to them in crisis?
Objection to form. You can answer if you know.
I'm sure there were situations where that occurred.
Would you agree that the failures in leadership and accountability have allowed unlawful conduct to continue unchecked at LMPD?
Objection to form. You can answer.
That could have occurred.
Would you defer to the report for their findings and for the specific instances of conduct that they found?
Objection to form. You can answer.
Yes, sir. The Department of Justice knows what they're doing, and I don't doubt their findings.
Okay.
The former chief not disputing one question presented to him about the report.
And once again, that's Louisville attorney Greg Sims asking the questions. It happened on Tuesday of this week, and we just now got the recordings. The attorneys in this case, David Maurer and Sims, today sent the transcripts of Conrad's deposition to the U.S. Department of Justice. So I asked U of L law professor Sam Markison today if Conrad could ever face any kind of charges or criminal charges due to the findings. He said only if Conrad had ordered the actions and was implicit in them. Conrad was asked by the attorney if he had actual knowledge of LMPD officers violating the rights of people, and he said no, and that if he ever became aware of it, disciplinary action should have been taken. We did ask former Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher, Conrad's boss at the time, for response, but his spokesperson said he has not seen the deposition. She went on to say, quote, his administration cooperated fully with the DOJ investigation, viewing it as an opportunity to honor the pain from the tragedy that preceded it and an opportunity for LMPD to improve, embrace reform, and become a model for police departments across the country, ushering in a new, more equitable era of public safety.